April 29th, 1944, midnight, central France. A woman jumps from a British bomber over occupied France. Her parachute catches in a tree. When a resistance fighter makes a flirtatious remark, she tells him to shut up and cut her down. Her name is Nancy Wake, codename Hélène. The Gestapo calls her the White Mouse, the most wanted person in France. They have placed a 5 million franc bounty on her head. Over the next 5 months, she will lead 7,000 guerrilla fighters against 22,000 German soldiers. She will kill a man with her bare hands. She will bicycle 310 miles through enemy territory. She will raid Gestapo headquarters in broad daylight. She began the war as a wealthy socialite in Marseille. She will end it as the most decorated woman of World War II. How did one woman become the deadliest spy the Nazis ever faced? November 1940, Marseille. Nancy Wake sits in the bar of the Hotel du Louvre et Paix. She is 28 years old, recently married to Henri Fiocca, a wealthy French industrialist. The couple lives in a luxury apartment overlooking the harbor. They dine at the finest restaurants, vacation in Cannes, and life is comfortable. France has fallen to Germany 5 months earlier. Marshal Philippe Pétain leads the Vichy government, a puppet regime collaborating with the Nazis. The country is divided. The Germans occupy the north, while Vichy controls the south. Marseille sits in the so-called free zone. Nancy spots an out-of-place man sitting alone at the bar. He is British, an army officer, interned by the French but allowed out on parole. She introduces herself. They talk. The officer explains that hundreds of British soldiers remain trapped in France after the evacuation at Dunkirk. They need help escaping. Nancy makes a decision that will change her life. She begins working as a courier for the French resistance. Her first contact is Captain Ian Garrow, a Scottish officer organizing an escape route for stranded Allied soldiers. The network becomes known as the Pat O'Leary Line, named after a Belgian doctor who later takes command. The operation smuggles downed airmen, escaped prisoners, and Jewish refugees out of France. Nancy proves invaluable. Her husband's wealth provides cover, and her beauty provides distraction. Her Australian passport allows her to travel freely across southern France. Her courier routes crisscross southern France: Nice, Cannes, Toulon, Perpignan. Messages, money, and forged documents pass through her hands. Safe houses appear. Border guards accept bribes. German checkpoints wave her through with a smile. Henri supports her completely. He funds the operation from his own fortune and purchases a safe house outside Marseille to shelter escaped prisoners. Together, they hide as many as 15 Allied soldiers at a time. Nancy develops her own tactics. A little powder, a little drink on the way, and she passes German posts with a wink. "Do you want to search me?" The guards wave her through. In 1941, the Gestapo begins to notice. Someone is helping Allied soldiers escape. Someone is smuggling documents across the South. Someone keeps slipping through their fingers. They give this mysterious figure a nickname, the White Mouse. In October 1941, Ian Garrow is arrested by Vichy police. He is sentenced to prison at Mauzac, near Bergerac, with a transfer to concentration camp pending. Nancy refuses to abandon him. She poses as his cousin and visits him in prison, bringing food parcels and gathering intelligence. She learns that a guard might be willing to help. For a price, the guard demands 500,000 francs. Nancy is short by 40,000. She telegraphs Henri, who wires the money immediately. The Vichy police grow suspicious. They interrogate Nancy about the large sum she received. She talks her way out, explaining that francs is pocket change for a woman of her status. November 1942, Marseille. Everything changes in a single month. Germany invades the southern free zone after the Allies land in North Africa. The Gestapo now operates openly in Marseille. The comfortable buffer between Nancy and her hunters vanishes overnight. The signs of surveillance multiply. Faint clicking sounds echo on her telephone line. A friend reports seeing a man digging through her mailbox. The proprietor of a nearby cafe spots someone following her down the street. The 5 million franc bounty on the White Mouse grows more tempting by the day. But Nancy has unfinished business before she can think of escape. Ian Garrow remains imprisoned at Mauzac. awaiting transfer to a concentration camp. Nancy refuses to abandon the man who brought her into the resistance. December 1942. Mozac prison. Nancy's plan to free Garrow finally succeeds. A guard's uniform is smuggled into the prison. Garrow slips out during the changing of the guard, dressed as one of his captors. A waiting car whisks him to Toulouse. From there, he crosses the Pyrenees and reaches England safely. When a French gendarme arrives at Nancy's home to report the escape of her cousin, she plays the role perfectly. She telephones Henri in delight, gushing about the wonderful news. The Gestapo is listening through her tapped phone. Let them hear an innocent wife celebrating family news. The White Mouse has struck again, but the walls are closing in faster than ever. Early 1943, Marseille. Nancy makes the agonizing decision to flee France. Henri insists on staying behind. His departure would raise immediate suspicion. His continued presence might protect them both. If the Gestapo believes Nancy is simply away shopping or visiting friends, they might delay their search. He promises to follow when the moment is right. Nancy packs carefully. Jewelry fills the handbag. Banknotes are tucked beneath her clothing. The Vichy police commissioner lives next door, so the goodbye must be casual. Any display of emotion would raise suspicion. Nancy walks away without looking back. She will never see Henri again. Her plan is to travel the same escape route she arranged for so many others. Now it is her turn. Nancy boards a train at Perpignan, carrying forged papers. The carriage fills with other travelers, some of them likely fellow fugitives. The train pulls away from the station, then it stops suddenly. Vichy police swarm aboard. Everyone is arrested. Nancy finds herself in a Toulouse jail. For 4 days, the Vichy police interrogate her relentlessly. They beat her and demand confessions. When that accusation fails to stick, they accuse her of bombing a cinema in Toulouse. Nancy stays silent. Her story remains unchanged. She is simply Madame Fioca of Marseille, a respectable wife traveling on business. The beatings continue. The accusations grow more desperate. On the 4th day, an unexpected visitor appears at the jail. Patrick O'Leary, the Belgian resistance leader who commands the escape network, walks into the police commissioner's office. He carries forged papers identifying himself as a senior member of the milice, the brutal French auxiliary that hunts resistance fighters. O'Leary spins an elaborate lie. Nancy is his mistress, he explains. They were traveling together when the train was stopped. Her stubborn silence during interrogation was meant to protect him from his jealous wife. He drops the name of Pierre Laval, head of the Vichy government, claiming personal friendship. The police commissioner hesitates. The forged papers look authentic. The threats sound credible. Angering a friend of Laval could destroy his career. The bluff works. Nancy walks out of the jail arm in arm with her rescuer. The White Mouse slips through enemy fingers once again. But escaping France proves far more difficult than escaping jail. Over the following months, Nancy makes 5 attempts to cross the Pyrenees. Each time, heavy German and milice patrols along the frontier force her back. The mountains crawl with soldiers hunting refugees and resistance fighters. During one attempt, Germans board her train for a search. Nancy leaps from the moving carriage to avoid capture. The handbag vanishes in the chaos. Another attempt ends in a blizzard high in the mountains. The party is forced to retreat or freeze to death. Nancy sleeps in barns and safe houses between attempts, always moving, always one step ahead of the Gestapo. On her 6th attempt, she finally succeeds. The crossing takes 48 hours through freezing mountain passes. Nancy climbs through snow, wades across a frigid river, and stumbles into Spanish territory more dead than alive. But she is free. June 1943, London. The journey from Spain carries Nancy through Barcelona and Madrid before a boat delivers her to England. Nearly 1,000 Allied servicemen owe their freedom to her work. Back in Marseille, Henri waits for news of his wife. The Gestapo waits too. Nancy arrives in London determined to continue the fight. She expects to join the Free French forces under General Charles de Gaulle. She applies immediately. They reject her. De Gaulle refuses to put women in combat. Nancy is furious. 3 years of risking her life, and now she is told to sit out the war because of her gender. A friend suggests another option, the Special Operations Executive. The SOE is Winston Churchill's secret army. Created in 1940, its mission is to set Europe ablaze through sabotage, subversion, and guerrilla warfare behind enemy lines. Unlike the Free French, the SOE actively recruits women. They reason that the Nazis are blinded by misogyny. They are less likely to suspect a woman of being a dangerous operative. Nancy meets Maurice Buckmaster, head of the SOE's French section. He is impressed by her experience, her fluency in French, and her intimate knowledge of resistance networks in southern France. She is accepted for training. The SOE course is brutal. Nancy learns weapons handling pistols, rifles, Sten guns, grenades. She studies explosives and demolition. She practices hand-to-hand combat, including silent killing techniques, and learns parachute drops, radio operation, codes, and ciphers. She memorizes sabotage methods and escape tactics. Her training reports describe her as a very good and fast shot who put the men to shame by her cheerful spirit and strength of character. Vera Atkins, the senior female officer overseeing agents heading into France, calls her a real Australian bombshell. Tremendous vitality, flashing eyes, everything she did well. The training is grueling, and Nancy clashes with instructors. She misses early morning runs. She is caught drinking one evening and briefly dismissed from the course. But Ian Garrow, the man she helped escape from Mauzac, vouches for her. She returns to complete her training. By early 1944, Nancy holds the rank of captain in the First Aid Nursing Yeomanry, the cover organization for female SOE agents. Her codename is Hélène. Her mission, parachute into occupied France, link up with the Maquis resistance fighters, and prepare them for the Allied invasion. On the night of April 29, 1944, Nancy boards a Halifax bomber in silk stockings, high heels and overalls, carrying a revolver, cash, and 2 lace nightdresses for sleeping in the wilderness. The plane crosses the English Channel and flies deep into France. At midnight, Nancy jumps into the darkness over the Auvergne region. Her parachute catches in a tree. Resistance leader Henri Tardivas finds her dangling in the branches. He makes a gallant remark about beautiful fruit. Nancy tells him to shut up and cut her down. The White Mouse has returned to France. May 1944, Auvergne region, central France. Nancy lands in chaos. Her mission is to work with the Maquis, the guerrilla resistance fighters hiding in the French countryside. She is supposed to link up with a leader named Gaspard, who commands several thousand men, and supposed to coordinate supply drops, distribute weapons, and prepare for the Allied invasion. Instead, she finds disorganization and distrust. Gaspard is unprepared for her arrival. He wanted money and weapons. Instead, he gets a British agent and a woman. The radio operator assigned to her team has disappeared. He is spending the week with his girlfriend instead of making contact with London. Nancy and Major John Farmer, codenamed Hubert, find themselves isolated, communication cut off, supplies absent, cooperation withheld. Nancy refuses to wait. She tracks down the wayward radio operator and drags him back to work, establishing contact with SOE headquarters in London. Within days, Allied planes begin dropping supplies onto mountain plateaus. Weapons, ammunition, explosives, money. Nancy takes charge of the drops. Night after night, she coordinates the landings, unpacks the crates, and distributes weapons to the Maquis fighters, keeping meticulous records and paying the men from her handbag full of cash. The French fighters are skeptical at first. A woman giving orders? Nancy responds the only way she knows how. She wins drinking contests, demonstrates her weapon skills, and matches them in crude language and dark humor. Henri Tardivas later says of her, "She is the most feminine woman I know until the fighting starts. Then, she is like 5 men." By June, Nancy commands respect throughout the region. She has armed and organized nearly 7,000 Maquis fighters. Her sector causes the Germans more trouble than any other in France. On June 6, 1944, the Allies land at Normandy. D-Day has arrived. Nancy's Maquis spring into action. They sabotage railways, cut telephone lines, ambush German convoys, and destroy bridges. They are a thorn in the side of German forces trying to reinforce the front. The Germans respond with overwhelming force. On June 20th, a massive German assault hits the Maquis positions at Montmouchet. 11,000 German troops with tanks, Artillery and aircraft attack Gaspar's 3,000 fighters. The battle is brutal. The Maquis inflict heavy casualties but are forced to retreat. In the chaos, Nancy's radio operator buries his equipment and destroys his code books to prevent capture. Nancy loses all communication with London. She faces a choice: wait for rescue that may come too late, or act. Nancy borrows a bicycle. Over the next 72 hours, she pedals 310 miles through enemy territory and passes German patrols at checkpoints, playing the role of a simple French housewife. She navigates mountain roads and bombed-out villages and rides through the night, sleeps for minutes at a time. She finds another SOE radio operator and sends a situation report to London and requests new equipment. Then she turns around and bicycles back. By the time she returns, her inner thighs are raw and bleeding, but she has saved her operation. Of all her wartime exploits, Nancy later says she is most proud of the bicycle ride. July to September 1944, Auvergne region. With communications restored, Nancy resumes operations with deadly efficiency. She leads ambushes on German convoys. She organizes raids on enemy installations. She trains new recruits in guerrilla tactics. The Germans pursue her relentlessly, but the White Mouse remains uncatchable. Her most daring operation targets Gestapo headquarters in Montluçon. Nancy knows the building. She knows the Germans' routine. At exactly 12:25 in the afternoon, with German punctuality, the Gestapo officers gather for their midday meal. Nancy leads French and Spanish fighters in 4 cars. They screech to a halt outside the building. Nancy storms through the back door, throws grenades into the rooms, and sprays machine gun fire up the stairs and down the corridors. Within 30 seconds, they are back in their cars and racing away. The Gestapo headquarters is destroyed. Many officers lie dead. During another raid on a German gun factory, an SS sentry spots Nancy. He is about to raise the alarm and bring soldiers running. Nancy approaches silently. She delivers a judo chop to the back of his neck, a technique she learned during SOE training in Scotland. The sentry dies instantly. Nancy later tells interviewers she was quite surprised it worked. The war grows uglier. Nancy's men capture a young German woman suspected of being a spy. The Maquisards are unable to execute her. Nancy interrogates the woman and confirms her guilt. She orders the firing squad to proceed. When they still hesitate, Nancy says she will do it herself. Defiant to the end, the spy spits at Nancy and screams "Heil Hitler" before the bullets find her. The Nazis have made her hard. The atrocities she has witnessed, the tortured prisoners, the burned villages, the murdered civilians, have stripped away any mercy for the enemy. On August 25, 1944, Paris is liberated. The German occupation of France crumbles. In September, Nancy's Maquis fighters march triumphantly into Vichy. The celebrations are overwhelming. The French people cheer their liberators. Nancy should feel victorious. Instead, she receives devastating news. Henri is dead. The Gestapo arrested him in May 1943, shortly after Nancy fled France. For 5 months, they tortured him. They demanded the location of the White Mouse. The Germans even approached Henri's parents, promising to release him if someone revealed Nancy's whereabouts. Henri refuses to speak. On October 16, 1943, the Gestapo lined him against a wall and shot him. Nancy learns this more than a year after his death. She returns to Marseille and discovers that the Gestapo had commandeered their apartment. Possessions, memories, the life they built. Everything has vanished. Henri's family blames her. They believe her resistance work led to his execution. Nancy carries this guilt for the rest of her life. After the war, Nancy becomes one of the most decorated women of World War II. She receives the George Medal from Britain, the Medal of Freedom from the United States, and the Légion d'honneur, Croix de Guerre, and Médaille de la Résistance from France. She works for the British Air Ministry Intelligence Division. She runs twice unsuccessfully for Australian Parliament. She remarries in 1957, an Australian veteran named John Forward. They remained together for 40 years until his death. In 1985, Nancy publishes her autobiography, The White Mouse. The book becomes an international bestseller. In her final years, Nancy lives at the Stafford Hotel in London. She can be found at the bar at all hours, sipping gin and tonics, entertaining anyone who stops to chat. She scoffs at a television movie that shows her cooking breakfast for her men. For goodness sake, did the Allies parachute me into France to fry eggs and bacon? There wasn't an egg to be had, and even if there was, why would I be frying it when I had men to do that sort of thing? Nancy Grace Augusta Wake dies on August 7, 2011. She is 98 years old. Her ashes are scattered over the hills of Auvergne, the mountains where she once led her Maquis fighters against the Nazi occupation. The White Mouse had finally come home,